Join us this hour for our segment Invent America with your co-host, the Inventor Lady Rita Crompton. Discover what's next in the home improvement industry and explore new products and innovations. Or if you have that next great big idea, learn what it takes to bring your invention to the world as Michael King and Rita Crompton talk to America's inventors and innovators. Remember, the America of tomorrow is being invented today. We invite you to visit us at HomeTalkUSA.com, one of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, we proudly present Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country, Home Talk USA, with your host, the Cajun contractor, Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Yeah, hey, welcome back. This is Home Talk USA right here on the Home Improvement Broadcasting Network. This is the Invent America Hour. And don't forget, though, we want to recognize some of our great radio affiliates that now have joined our family. And we can't forget about that big Indiana station, KFMD 1580 AM in Fort Madison. And we also have simulcast on their AM station, WLCI 1670 AM in Fort Madison. Thank you, our Indiana group, for supporting the show and coming along. This is Invent America. And don't forget, the next hour, we're going to take you right into the Made in America hour with the Made in America guy himself, Mr. Greg Owens. But we missed her last week. She was caught right in the middle of Hurricane Milton. And it's been a devastating situation for her. And we finally got her back. And if you were just joining us, or if you listened to the last hour of the show, you heard her story that I was telling her story about her stuck on that mountain with no power. Rita Crompton, the Inventor Lady, she is back.
I am. It is so nice to be back. You know, you forget or you don't realize how important, phone, internet, and everything is. We were without internet and phone for 2 weeks. And just getting off the mountain was a challenge. So getting, things taken care of now and back in order. So it's good to be back and see everybody and being able to do it from my own desk instead of having to drive into a, parking lot somewhere in town.
Well, let's start the show. You wanted to discuss something you were going to discuss a couple of weeks ago, and then all of a sudden we had some things that happened, hurricanes coming in, Helene, Milton. It just altered our whole broadcasting schedule and our topics. We had to adjust to that. And also let my audience know, I will be on the road in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be visiting a lot of these areas out there. We have a lot of radio affiliates that got caught, and some of our radio affiliates are not even back on the air yet. So I want to help them out. But hey, Rita, you want to talk about the value of provisional patent application. What is that? Explain the process of that.
Not everybody understands exactly what the patent process is. So this is, kind of a chance to share with some of our listeners some options. And, the provisional patent application is a time stamp on saying this is mine and nobody else can use it or have it. And it's that broad explanation of what you're trying to invent. And it's never reviewed by anyone unless your filing date is challenged. And this is where we just really get into some challenges sometimes, is that, yes, the inventor can do it themselves. That is not the issue. Legally, they can do it themselves. Should they? It's kind of like doing your own brain surgery. By the time you realize you made a mistake, it's too late to fix it. So if the whole idea is protecting your intellectual property, then for goodness sakes, do it right. And, so for some inventors, it gives them time. So you get your provisional filed. You are now patent pending. You can go to an engineer. You can have some help. You can talk to people. You can get feedback on it. Last year at ASD Market Week, we had several inventors that had just filed a provisional patent application, and they got tremendous feedback on their idea. And so then they went back and made changes. And, then when they filed their non-provisional, the full patent filing, they were able to include that. But if they'd filed all of it already, then they're going back, and it's more expensive to go ahead and correct what was already filed than it is to file the provisional patent application. For sometimes it's just budgeting. It gives them, options as far as, pay half now and then pay half in a year. So those are all good things.
The whole important part of this particular part of the process is to make sure that you have a legitimate, real good patent attorney. And I know I'm going to hear from the legal, what do you mean lawyers aren't legitimate? That's not what I mean. You have to be legitimate to have a law license. We're talking about patent attorneys that have your best interests.
Right.
And not do what attorneys do. This is my billable hours. They don't care one way or the other. They give you the advice and send me a check for $3,000.
Oh, yeah. The big thing, there's a couple of things. Registered patent attorney is different than patent attorney. Somebody can, be a licensed attorney and, be reading and talking about patents, although they're really not supposed to. The registered means that they've passed the credentials. They've got the credentials from the USPTO. So that's really important. Don't use a patent agent. They're out there as well, but because they're an agent and not an attorney, they're not your attorney of record. And I know there's going to be some guys that want to throw rocks at me, for saying that, but it is true. And so we've asked, and originally back in the 1700s and 1800s, it was patent agents that did the filing. So they're grandfathered in. But then when it went to registered patent attorneys, when somebody's talking about licensing, they want a registered patent attorney to have done the patent.
Yeah, and that's the key. And again, do your research before you hire that patent attorney. Talk to some of his clients. Talk to, because man, there's some good ones out there, and we've had some good ones on the show.
Oh yeah,
that were pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, several that I know and have worked with and, vetted. So more than happy to give out, their contact information. And that's the big thing. Sometimes, they say, you get what you pay for. No, sometimes the attorney is just driving a nicer car. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing a better job. Now, there are some real scam artists out there. They should never use a template.
Yeah, that's right. I get involved in the brainstorm. I'm thinking about it. I'm putting it on a piece of paper. Now, how do I get to that next level? That's when I want to come in. When they try to catch them before they make it all these mistakes, and then they spent all their money and they're broke. And how many times you hear that? Man, I just ain't got no money, or man, I didn't realize if I'd have known it about you, I wouldn't have invested the $30,000 I lost, because I'm going to tell you what, and what I want to do too, write this down, Rita. We need to talk about the marketing process, because this is something that never comes into the equation. We talked about the marketing of the product, but we never really focused on how important the marketing is. Because I need to tell you, you can take whatever you spent to get it to market, and you can time that by 100. And that's what you're going to spend on marketing. And people don't realize that.
No, they don't. They don't. Absolutely. We always say, it's like whatever you spent on the patent, the engineering, the manufacturing, all of that, and then times 2 for the cost of marketing. It's so expensive. Apple spent a lot of money to teach you that an apple is something that you play with and not eat.
But, I want to ask Greg Owens, and I'm going to ask him this on the air. And, and the reason I'm not going to ask him this because of Made of America. I'm not going to ask him. I'm going to ask him at Sherrill Manufacturing, because the first thing, he's a CEO, okay? And the first thing a CEO wants to do when things are bad is cut the marketing budget. That's the first thing that gets cut. And I've been arguing that's the last thing that needs to get cut. Because when things are going good, why do you want to send ABC and CBS and all these other Fox and I'm not picking on them, all the millions of dollars when things are rolling? And I need to tell you, and I'm going to tell my audience, my budget for my construction company, I never cut it. And we're going through some bad times right now. Construction is gone. There's no construction. And I'm taking hits on the company end. But you know what? I never cut my budget. Well, guess what? By me not cutting my budget, everybody's going bankrupt. And you know who's got some work now? Me. They're calling me now. They said, okay, I'm getting business. So I want to ask him that question as a CEO, put his hat on. why. Now, I'm not saying he did that, but he's got that CEO mentality because he's running a major manufacturing company, and why? Because I tell you, I don't understand it. And, and the marketing department is the first one that goes when things, cut
we've
the marketing.
Seen it. Yeah, we've seen it multiple
times. Why don't you cut your vice president? Why don't you cut him out? Why don't you cut this guy out? Why don't you cut this out? Because at the end of the day, if you keep pumping the bear is going to love you. And he won't eat you. You know what I mean?
That's right.
If you're feeding the bear, as long as you feed the bear, he ain't going to eat you.
And
quit feeding him, you're gone.
That's right. Out here where we live with the bears and the mountain lions, you better be paying attention for sure. So, anyway.
Rita, I'm sorry. We didn't even have a chance to get to your show yet.
I know. Well, we've got some great inventors who have filed provisional patent applications. They're going to be coming up. And we're going to talk a little bit about the changes that have been made to ASD Market Week. So stay tuned, everybody.
Welcome back. This is the Invent America show with me and my guest. I keep calling her the guest, the co-host of the show, because she talks like a guest. But the Inventor Lady herself, Rita Crompton. Rita, what's going on? Hey, you want to talk about a sponsor, right?
I do. I want to thank very, very, very much our sponsor, Aztec Washer, revolutionary and innovative roofing product since 1968. Holy cow, they know how to do it. They have been around forever. Seal it right, seal it tight, aztecwasher.com. And we are grateful for our sponsors. And right now I have got an inventor and an inventor group leader for New England, good friend, long time friend and professional acquaintance, George Peters. He invented, George has got a story to tell. He invented KettlePizza, and there's actually one in the White House. So how cool is that? George, tell our listeners, what is KettlePizza and where can they go find one?
Rita, thank you very much for the introduction. And I always have to make sure that I mention the co-founder of KettlePizza and because his mom might be listening one day, the gentleman who had the idea for Al Contarino. So Al is a fellow inventor, good friend, came to me one day and said, I have an idea to cook a pizza on a grill. And a year after that conversation took place, we launched KettlePizza and KettlePizza inserts that turn charcoal and gas grills into pizza ovens. When we launched in 2010, it was 100% made in America, and it's still being sold to this day. We've sold it as of, I'd say, 2020 or so to people in more than 70 countries, and I'm sure it's expanded since then. But that's what KettlePizza is.
Excellent. It's exciting to hear, it's made in America and you guys, really went through all the steps. I mean, you manufactured them yourselves for a while, but then you ended up selling the company, right? Or licensing. Which one way did you go?
In 2019, it was licensed to our steel partners in New Hampshire, and they continue to make it to this day. It was a very popular item during COVID. Everybody stayed home. A lot of people going out, so they wanted to cook pizza at home. But the reason that I always cite for the success of KettlePizza was the attention to detail making it here in America could be, because we visited all the factories that supplied to us different parts for it. And from the pizza peels to the stones, we could observe the high quality of those factories. And of course, the people who own those factories, it was the attention to detail and the quality of KettlePizza, which
excellent.
Really made us stand out.
Well, and now you are president of New England Invents. So you have dealt with inventors really from all over the country. I know you've been down to DC a couple of times, so you really have met a lot of inventors. And the use of the provisional patent application. I mean, getting a product from I have an idea to the marketplace is hard and it's expensive, but there are certain things the inventor needs to do to really give themselves the best chance. And intellectual property is a big one. And they go, oh, I can't afford a patent. It's like, really, in the scheme of things, that's probably the least expensive of all of it. And I don't want to scare anybody out there, but it really is. But there are things that you can do to give yourself then the best opportunity. And a provisional patent application is a really important step that a lot of inventors don't really understand.
It's like going to build a house and you want to find the right location. Maybe you have to find a good piece of land. And that's what I always tell inventors is the provisional patent application. You really want to take your time with it. You want to do as many prior art searches as possible for your idea. There are a number of free search engines to search prior art. Like maybe your idea has been done before. Find out if it's been done before. Maybe there's something close to it. There are paid like search quests that gets a little deeper into details of prior art. So that's a very important part of getting ready to do your provisional patent application. In the provisional, you have to really understand that process. You want to get some help with it and filing it, because that's your stake in the ground. That's your planting the flag in that piece of ground that you just found, and that gives you a year to really kind of pull in your assets, your family, your funding, and put together a plan for your product going forward and see if it's really something that you want to take your time with.
Yeah. And for a lot of inventors, that year, because your provisional patent application is good for a year. And for a lot of them, that's when they will work on now the sexy prototype, the functioning proof of concept prototype. And, that you can show at a trade show. So that year is a valuable year. And I'll get inventors that will say, oh, I filed this. And it's like, no, you don't have any idea how fast that year is going to fly by. And these are the things that you need to be doing with that year. Fine-tuning the prototype, being able to get some feedback in the marketplace. Now you're patent pending. You can say, I'm patent pending. And you don't have to chase a non-disclosure everywhere you go. And that's really important. But that feedback, I mean, my goodness, it's amazing how often inventors under patent pending with a provisional patent application will start getting some really good suggestions on what they're trying to manufacture.
It's key for any would-be inventor to go into it with eyes wide open. The newbie inventors don't understand that big companies rely, and they weren't always big, that they relied on feedback, potential customers, feedback from anybody about your product. It's key. It can shape your future going forward. It can give you information that, gee, maybe I shouldn't go forward with this. Maybe it is going to be too expensive to make. So it's critical information that you get to show your product as many places that it is. There are ways to, depending on the size of your product, you have some really good prototypes made. And maybe you can pull money together to do a short run of manufacturing of your product to get it out to a diverse group of individuals that can give you as much information back on it as possible. So,
well, George, stick around. We will be back in a few minutes and wrap this up with George. But in the meantime, don't go anywhere, because we have got a great inventor coming on to talk about his products. He is actually out in California, and I'm hoping that he was able to get off the roof and get logged in because that's where he goes. That's where he invented his products. So in the meantime, if you know somebody out there who is an inventor or wants to be an inventor and needs some resources, have them shoot me an email. I am happy to answer my phone and visit with them and get them started in the right direction. And you know what? ASD Market Week is coming up, and we have got some exciting news about that. So everybody stick with us. We'll be right back. everybody. Thanks so much for being with us for this segment of Invent America. And we want to thank our sponsor, Sherrill Manufacturing, America's only flatware made in the U.S. And we just happen to have the CEO and chief marketing guy and everything else guy at Sherrill Manufacturing with us because he's going to do the third hour Made in the USA. But right now, we're going to talk to Greg a little bit about, you know, when we were on that wrapping up that, you know, first hour and introducing, you know, the Invent America hour, Michael was talking about, you know, why do people cut marketing dollars when the economy gets bad? And that's the last thing you should be cutting. And so, you know, he was talking a little bit about you, Greg. So we're going to deviate just a little bit and talk about how important marketing is.
Well, you're absolutely right, and Michael's absolutely right. The last thing you should ever do if you're looking to drive your business is cut the marketing budget, but it's a switch that you can turn on and off. So a lot of CFOs might attempt to do that, but we certainly didn't. When our sales exploded during the pandemic years because everybody was sitting at home buying stuff online, right? We were actually able to back off on our marketing budget on Google and some of the other outreach because we didn't need it. We couldn't keep product on the shelves. But then when that era came to an end about 2 years ago, we ramped it back up. And one of the interesting things about a marketing budget, if you're an online company like Liberty Tabletop, is it's really scalable. We try and hit a benchmark somewhere between 13 and 15% on our Google and other advertising. And it so that your advertising budget never eliminates your margin, and you try and keep it up there so you can keep your business growing. And it is a lever that you can pull back and forth on. And that's what we try and do to manage it.
Yeah. I know that for inventors, usually by the time they get to the point of marketing, especially if they're going to try to do a short run, it's tough because it's expensive. And by the time they've done, you know, the intellectual property, the design, manufacturing and everything, they're frequently calling me and saying, okay, I'm broke now. Now what do I do? It's like, well, gee, let's see if we can't get you to a professional trade show. And so one of the things that I have been, getting teed up for is ASD Market Week in 2015. Well, it's really interesting because we have been now, given our new spot. So we are going to have 1,000 square feet this year. We will be in the fourth row of the entrance right along the concession area. And we are really excited about, just kind of taking a step forward in the size of our booth, but also the location, because we were probably more than halfway back through that convention floor last year. And now we are going to be right in the front. So people will be able to see our Invent America banner when they walk in the front doors. So that is really cool.
Well, and you're reaching the customers that you want to reach. A big part of our marketing philosophy is we need to aim for the center of the bullseye. And so, for example, if we're trying to sell flatware online, what we would tend to do is advertise, flatware made in the USA. That's somebody looking for a knife, fork, and spoon that's made in America. That's the center of the bullseye, as opposed to just general flatware. If you're trying to market an invention, who attends that conference? And if those are the people that you're trying to reach, then that's the center of the bullseye for you.
Absolutely. And so this conference is in March 2025. And I do believe that I, backed up a little bit there. So I'm hoping everybody will go with us in 2025. It is March 9, 10, 11, and 12. And if you've got a product that you want feedback on, if you are selling product and can go with us, by all means, and every inventor who takes a product is automatically included in the Innovation Awards this year. And ASD, we tried to put the Innovation Awards in place last year, 2 days before we left for the show. So this year we are going to be able to advertise it and get it out there, and they are going to be one of the sponsors, which is really cool. They have never done this before. And the Invent America booth with 40 inventors is the only new product area in the show. So everybody wants to come and have a look and see what's new. What's the best new product out there that they want to vote for? And we are just thrilled to be able to have ASD Market Week participate with us in our new booth and in, the Innovation Awards and in just getting the word out there for everyone. So, George, how did you guys get the word out about your KettlePizza?
Well, Rita, it was, we did early on attend trade shows. That was one of the keys for us. But other than that, we sent KettlePizza products to grilling experts and pizza experts to really get that early feedback to see which way we should be going. And certainly we knew all about, the kettle style grill and everything. So we wanted to follow that group that had already established, I'll just mention them. Weber had already established, being the top certainly in the country and in the world. So we kind of followed along on their coattails. Wherever they were going, I made sure that that's where we were going too. But for new inventors, I urge them to try to throw in with someone like you, because having a standalone product in a booth by yourself at a big trade show, you are lost in the middle of the ocean there, because you still have to do some marketing, as Greg will know, to get people to your booth.
Right.
And if you're in with a group already of many, like you have, that's a combined area where a lot of people are going to know that you are at that show. If you just take a booth and you don't do any pre-show marketing or where you are or anything like that, you're going to be standing there pretty much alone.
Absolutely. Well, and the cool thing about, Stephanie, who's been on the show with us, she's been a speaker at our meetings. She is the VP of Buyer Relations, not the buyers like us of buying a booth, but the buyers that are buying product. So she's actually talking to, and when we send her a list of our products, she sends it out to the specific buyers for different companies ahead of time. So they know we're coming. They know what to look for. They can get in touch with us ahead of time. We've never had that before. And that is a really wonderful option that she's got with us. So if you're out there and you've got a product and you would like to join us, now is the time to reach out, because we've got people picking their spots. We've got a floor plan. We get new people that are coming on board every single day to pick their spot. And we are going to start doing our online social media advertising next week. So now is the time. If you want to take full advantage of the next 5 months, I know it's going to be March in 5 months. So join us now. And, Greg, if you've got anybody out there that should be joining us, they don't have to be brand new. They can actually be joining us later on.
Will do, Rita. I'm thinking that maybe I need to poach some of your people. Maybe I need to have George on to talk a little bit about the manufacturing challenges and Made in USA perspective.
There you go. There you go. So, no, we love having, people that are selling product. If they invented the product, they can go with us to Invent America. And it doesn't matter if it's been out there for a few years or if they've gone with us before. Those are all really, the people that we want to invite, so that when people come to our booth out there, they are they're there for a variety of reasons. They want to see what's new, what's just in prototype stage. They want to see who's got inventory. And with the variety of things that we have out there, it is just amazing, because people will go out there and they're interested in fashion. So they'll look at a couple of fashion products. They want diapers. They're looking at toys. They're looking at tools. And we had a gentleman there. He had just taken his prototype really off the rapid prototype machine and brought it with him. I thought it was warm and sticky when he got there. And there were people that wanted to buy that one and take it home with them because it was such a cool new product. So we get inventors that are in all stages of going. One gentleman, within about 6 months, had sold his entire company after going with us out there. So that was very cool. So first time for some doing a wholesale sale, and others were selling individual products to consumers, which is really cool about that show, is that they'll let the consumers come in as well. A lot of other shows won't do that. So anyway, George, thanks so much for being with us today. I am very grateful that you were available and to talk about it. You've got a ton of knowledge. Anybody out there who's got questions for us, we are going to be back with our last segment, and I've got a couple other questions for George to answer. And we're going to try not to put him on the spot too much, but it's always a little bit fun on the radio, catch you off guard just a bit. So anyway, stick with us, everybody. We have got another segment coming right up, and we're going to talk some more about this complicated process called inventing. So in the meantime, if you know somebody out there has got a question about inventing a product and needs a good service provider, just wants to join us at the Inventor Roundtable meetings, they're free. And we want to thank Noah McNeely for being our go-to manufacturing consultant because he is very, very helpful. So Product Quick Start is the name of our Invent America sponsor. Hello, America. Thanks so much for being with us for this segment of Invent America. This segment is sponsored by Bond Products. For do-it-yourself carpet binding, there's only one InstaBind Bond Products. And as far as I'm concerned, there is only one George Peters, and he is the president of New England Invents. George, why is being a member of a group such a valuable tool?
Thank you, Rita, for having me on. Well, nothing gets created in a vacuum. An inventor might have that, very first thought about something, but to be able to get feedback from people who think like you and understand how I don't know if anybody totally understands how an inventor works, but it's critical because we all look at things a little differently. So getting that feedback from other inventors, and especially a group of people you get to see, you get to know, they give you honest feedback. They're not going to just tell you just because they're friends with you, they're going to tell you actually how they feel. And that's critical to, moving forward with it. You need the honest feedback. It's
right.
Timed.
It's funny that you go there because I was thinking, it's when an inventor calls me and said, well, all of my friends really like it. Doesn't count. My mother is really excited about this. Doesn't count. My spouse thinks this is great. No, doesn't count. And so when you get with a group of inventors, like, we'll do on the Inventors Roundtable meetings, a lot of times that inventors will show prototypes. They'll ask for feedback. And it's a valuable tool that, a group provides to someone. And a lot of times, the best information a new inventor gets is the experienced inventor sitting next to them, even if it is on a screen in a virtual meeting.
It's very important. One of the hallmarks when I took over at the time, the Inventors Association of New England, Bob Hosline had instituted every other month we could meet at his house in private. Everybody signed an NDA. And I even pitched a couple of products myself because there were other members there. It was recorded. We all signed, like I said, NDAs, and you could be open with what your thoughts were in creating this. And that was kind of the go, no-go for some people who said, hey, we've seen that before. You've got to look at that. Somebody has seen that before. Or gee, maybe you have something there, start protecting that before you go showing it anywhere. And that all happened with the group.
Yeah. I had one inventor and, he was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on development of a product, not even filed a patent yet. He had investors. It's like, you can't do it that way. You start taking money from other people, boy, you'd better be filed and know you've got a darn good one because they're going to want their money back.
Every room that I was in that I can certainly remember and had a product in front of I got asked two questions, usually right off the bat. Did I have a good trip? And did what I was holding have a patent? And if you said, yes, I had a good trip, and yes, that has a patent or patent pending, well, then they offer you a coffee to stay a little longer. If you say that you have actual sales that are, being taken now and you're building that up, then they'll probably take you to lunch. But slowly you'll learn very quickly if they start looking at their watch and if you have different answers, they're going to be asking somebody to come in and get them out of the meeting and things like that. So it's know your audience, but preparation is the key. There'll be a lot of things coming at early stage inventors, and that's why it's important to get to a group so you can call me or call others in the group to bounce things off that you're really not sure of. It's a very welcoming group.
Well, and to go back to what we were, what we opened with is that, before you start going out and getting all that information, we always tell folks it's like, get a good comprehensive search done. If it's been done anywhere in the world, you will not be granted a U.S. patent. The sooner you know that, the better you can frame your conversation. Well, then you get the provisional filed. Nothing's out there. You've got a new way of solving a problem everybody has, or at least a lot of people have, and you get a provisional filed. Well, now you can go out there. You can talk at different meetings. You can show your prototypes. I don't care if it's made out of duct tape and cardboard or Legos. We've seen some cool ones made out of pipe cleaners. So, you can get that basic idea going and you can start explaining things and get a lot of feedback. And then when you go and you join the groups, and you start getting information back, you can say, no, we're patent pending. And somebody says, oh, did you think about doing it this way? And you think, oh, that's a pretty good idea. And you can try it with your prototypes. And those are some of the things that the meetings allow you to do. And I know that a lot of the times the different inventors that I have had on at the IRT meetings, they'll be all across America, from Florida to Washington. And some of them have got product in the marketplace, and others is like, I can't even really talk about this because I haven't filed anything yet. But they can ask general questions. What's first? Who do we use? What makes the most sense? How much is it going to cost? Well, here's a ballpark. And so they can, start learning how to budget. For a lot of them, it's like, okay, well, the next ASD market week is 6 months away. I won't make that one, but I might make the following one. Sometimes it's a matter of, no, that's not the right show for you. Let's take a look at this. I have been to the National Asphalt Show. So there is literally a show for everything. And that's what we look for is, what makes the most sense for any one inventor, right?
I think that know your audience, know your capabilities. There is help out there with the different groups around the country. Certainly, we don't just deal with people in New England. We actually deal with people from other countries also looking to bring products into the United States. So reach out to us. We're a very friendly group. I'll help anybody who calls me. I've been around a long time and probably have fallen in and climbed out most of the holes that are out there. So it's always good to have somebody along for the journey.
Absolutely. And you are one of the best, along with New England Invents. We have the Inventors Roundtable that is virtual, and there are good groups in a lot of the major communities. I know Don Skaggs in Kentucky's got a wonderful group, and they actually have people from South Africa joining their meetings on a pretty regular basis. And so there are inventors everywhere. And there are some independent inventors out there that have amazing new products. So if you know an inventor, or if you are an inventor, join us next week for Invent America. Why? Because America invents, everyone. Have a great week.